Welcome to Smart Media Training on Smart Discussions. This is a unique area that should generate the types of interaction that a community like ours strives to achieve. We need to find out what the hot issues are that are on people's minds. We need to find out what things are important to people. This is an amazing tool that should get tremendous use. First, however, we ought to probably find out where it is. If you go under the left sidebar menu, under the connection icon, you will see that the first icon under that is Smart Discussion. If you select that icon, it will bring up an interesting group of blocks with groups in it. Well, the first thing we notice as we look at this is they've used the word group an awful lot. So exactly what is meant by groups? Well, a group is where people interested in the same things join together and they discuss their likes, dislikes, needs, wants, druthers, whatever. This group could be a locality by an area. This group could be by common business interests. It could be by common hobbies or any other interest area. It could be a type of network. There seem to be three categories of groups as we look at this. There are groups that you created. There are groups that you subscribe to, including the ones you created. And there's a group directory of all groups. Probably the easiest way to understand this is to have Joe Sample create a couple of groups. Alright, so when you click on the Create a Group button, it opens up to a form. And the first thing on the form is a potential place to load a logo. And I've got some logos that I can get to here that we'll do. They're just simple icons that are either paid for or in the public domain. So we'll just pull one of those up, it uploads that, and that becomes the logo for our group, as opposed to using a company logo. This is really not the place to put a branding logo in. It's just a logo that might represent that group. So Joe has decided in this particular group that what he'd like to do is he'd like to name the group, and he's kind of perceiving that this might be a group of rookies, not that leaders obviously couldn't participate, but a group of rookies who are working together, who understand one another, who might help one another. So he's calling this group Rookie Stars. Now the summary of this group is he's just going to make it short and sweet, and that'll be Rookies Helping Rookies. And that will be used anytime that your mouse passes over the images that had the groups in the blocks that you saw just a second ago. That summary will come up. Now he's going to have a more full description here where he's going to say this group is about rookies helping rookies. Leaders sometimes forget how hard it is to get started. Joe's not a great typist. All right, so that's our full description. Then as we scroll down, we come to an area called Agreement. You have to check to confirm that you have read and accept the terms of agreement. And that, of course, is important to us. Now, the last area that we're going to come to is called Access. And it's right at the bottom here. You're going to have three choices. Choice number one is called Public Access. What it really means is not only can everybody view all of the discussions, the topics, and groups, but anybody who's a member can create a new topic, can comment, and join the discussions. It's wide open. Now the next one is called public view. Now what public view means, it's a private group. You have to request or subscribe to join. However, you can jump in and look at all the discussions that are going on. The nice thing about that group is that you will be able to see if this is the kind of discussion, the kind of group that you'd like to participate in. Now the third group is a very closed group in that it is a private group and there is no view. So you have to subscribe, be accepted, and then you can view the discussions, add your own topics, add your own comments, and so on. Deciding what your group is going to be is very important to the future of that group, I believe. So this is something to keep in mind. However, I will say this. If you change your mind later, the type of group that it is can be changed by the person who created it. Okay, Joe has decided that his group is going to be a totally public access group. Anyone can view and post messages. So he clicks down here below on the group, on the create group, and you can see a message comes up that says you have just created the group Rookie Stars. Now notice where we are here. If you look up here, here's the group directory. These are all groups. Here are the groups he's subscribed to. He's automatically subscribed to his own group, the one he created, and then under this tab would be groups that he has created. Now if he wanted to go back in and manage this group, and this is what I was talking about, he can go back in, change his mind in terms of the public access later, save those details. He can also unsubscribe people. He can set people as moderators. All of that is things that you'll get into as you proceed forth in this particular area. So we'll look at the subscribes now. He might be able to, he can view this. Now notice that the next thing he can do, because this is important, and Joe's decided that he wants to create a fairly hot topic. He doesn't have to. He could let somebody else create the first topic, but he really wants to get the ball rolling. So he's going to create a new topic, and the topic name that, and then his description is also a little inflammatory, but he's looking to get discussion here. He says, should rookies organize together? Interesting. Okay, so he creates that topic. So now he's just created a topic. Now notice as soon as the topic's created, there's this link. Well, what this link is for is this is where you put in your comments. However, notice that you could like the topic, and as soon as you do, it'll count that you've liked the topic. If you think somebody's doing a totally inappropriate topic, you can also click on the flag as inappropriate, or you could dislike the topic. All right, let's go ahead and put a comment under this. Leaders always seem positive even when rookies are miserable. And then he shares that, so you can see that that topic's there. Leaders always seem positive even when rookies are miserable. So we're going to comment on that. Notice that you could like or dislike that comment as well. Notice that it's time and date stamped as well. So we're going to comment on that. Sometimes misery loves company, especially if they have a solution that fits. So then he's going to share that. Now you can see that the way these are organized is for each comment there can be multiple, any number of sub-comments. That means that often a comment, even though a topic will generate a certain amount of discussion, a given comment could generate its own discussion area. And so that's why they're organized the way that this is. So Joe now thinks he's got a hot enough topic and comments to get the ball rolling. But you know, Joe's going to need to keep the interest going in the future, or this group's going to falter even if it has a great start. Fortunately, Joe can designate certain people, if they're willing, to be moderators and pick up some of the responsibilities of taking care of these groups and topics. There is a responsibility. If you start a group, if you start a topic, there's some responsibility for keeping it moving or perhaps killing it off, stopping it, discontinuing it. But there is a responsibility there when you start that group. Personally, I can't wait to see how Smart Discussions on the homepage pays version 2 grows and evolves as people use the system, and that's the key. Use the system. We'll see you in Smart Discussions.